Right, panel. Well, David, let's start with you. You've been mic'd up. Just basically, I'm going to just get a comment from each of you, and then we'll get a couple of comments from the floor and another comment from you each.
Can I give an overall comment?
Yeah, that's what I think we're taking stock of the morning. Yeah.
I was in the advertising business, agency business for 20 years. I've done this for 26. For the last 15 to 20, as anyone who knows me will testify, I've been a constant nuisance calling upon clients to change, agencies to change. I think this morning has been the single best moment in all that 26 years. I think it was a privilege to be here. I think that Ian is to be absolutely commended for organising it. I'm absolutely grateful for the two people I invited, Tim, who was remotely, Martin, who led our keynote. I thought the bright eyes and shining conviction of Debbie and Amanda made the thing almost worth it on its own. I thought the Change for Life thing was absolutely excellent. I have to single out Peter Field. I think to deliver a really good lecture to a conference audience who were passionately taking notes and explaining to us the science behind the gun report was absolutely fantastic.
You've mentioned every speaker now.
No,
right?
I'm going to mention one more and stop. And he's not a speaker. He's a colleague. He's also a competitor. Paul Phillips said it's about profit, you know. And I think that comment in a question in the first break, it's about profit, you know, is the way in which we will break the stranglehold. As soon as we realise it's about profit, not revenue, then we can have fewer better people, and then we can have much better margins.
Just expand on that last bit, which I didn't. You mean
the problem
remuneration focuses on profit, or the company should focus on profit?
Well, agencies focus on profit. I mean, this is the agency business. It's the communications business. I think we've gone into a long cycle of ISBA, IPA. It's the communications business. It's a joint responsibility, folks. It isn't. It's the agency's responsibility to run their business, and agencies' margins, as evinced on Caroline's figures, are inadequate. They're inadequate. And that's largely because far too many people are thrown at work because the fee-based system has given people the false comfort that if you've got more people working on the business, you can charge more and therefore you'll max your revenue. You may max your revenue, but you absolutely don't max your profit. Everybody has talked about the importance of fantastic people. And the blended rate thing, perfect comment, the blended rate thing is the slippery slope. The best people will deliver you profit if you're not charging for lots of other people in ways that the client finds extremely difficult to quantify.
That's really helpful. Julie, your comment on the morning, and we have heard a lot about the rates that lawyers charge, but you're obviously on the marketing side of Mills and Reeve. But just whatever you want to talk about.
Really, just to build on what you've said, in my business, the thing we look at is profit. It's absolutely the fundamental measure of our performance. It is about profit. And if you look at how our business has changed over the last 10 years, it's fundamental. 10 years ago, probably 90% of the work we did would have been on the chargeable hour. If I look at this year's numbers, probably about half of the work we do is now on the chargeable hour. The rest of it will be fixed fees, value-based billing, some sort of other alternative...
The legal work that the company does.
Other alternative fee arrangements. I'm sure most of you don't read the legal press, but if you skimmed back, I don't blame you, but if you skimmed back over the past 5 years or so, the thing you will see that's been fundamental and the thing that's been talked about all the time is the death of the chargeable hour. And that's had a real impact in terms of how we do the work. That's been driven by our clients saying, we're not prepared to pay this amount for this. We need you to find a way of doing it better. And that really has a big impact on how we organise our business, the type of people we employ, how we do the work, what we have to talk to our clients about. And it's interesting to see the difference this morning.
So this is really the difference between a cost-plus contract for a warship, where you say we'll buy the warship at whatever it costs you to make it, and something that is different to that, which obviously then induces BAE Systems to reduce the cost as opposed to encouraging. Yeah. Wow, that's a very useful piece of information for us to have. Dominic, your comment on what would you like to pick up from the morning so far?
Well, there's been quite a lot said. Not all of it directly relates to remuneration, so it's difficult to know where to start. I think I'd say a couple of things. I don't really care how I pay you, as long as I pay you a fair price and that you're in profit. Because if you're in profit, you can sustain my business. And if you're not, then frankly, it's a false economy for me. So I don't care what model it is, putting aside the JV stuff, as long as you're getting a margin each year. I think the second thing I'd say is I will pay more money for good people, and I have done. Richard Morris, who's speaking this afternoon, Craig Maudsley, I'll pay through the nose for people like that, because they are transformational, and they're where 10 average planners or 10 average account managers, a single guy in one room can change a business, and I saw that at Capital One, and there's no price you can put on that. I think I'd say be careful about what you wish for with KPIs. Try and have shared KPIs with a marketing business like mine, and you are going to be subject to the volatility of the weather. So, with the best will in the world, guys, I read too many marketing award papers where everything is credited to TV ads or media strategy, and it's a load of rubbish. You guys do a good portion of what we do, but we have call centers, pricing, product development, we have a whole customer experience that you guys are not responsible for. So don't try and take ownership for every lever, because you don't own them. Take ownership for what you can and be credited for what you do in those levers, but not everything. And I think the final thing I'd say is the key thing for me in terms of maintaining a relationship is let me know you're on my side, and we both don't take enough time to get to know each other and the organisational context. And that means the marketers step back from contracts, they step back from negotiation, they let procurement run the table, and when it gets to that, it is a race to the bottom. So get to know me and my business, I'll get to know yours, and we'll have a much more fruitful negotiation.
Just one more, on that one, that be careful what you wish for with KPIs.
Yeah.
Would you like it if the agency said, look, we want to adjust for the weather and we're going to employ Peter Field or someone like him to do some econometrics that will sift out the weather effects from the advertising effects?
Don't need to. I've got my own econometrics team and we do it ourselves. So with the
yeah,
best
but you,
will
can't,
in
you
the
have to
world,
have a sort of neutral person doing it, don't you?
No, but we have our own data, and I think it's probably richer than the media agencies. So my point would be, it's less about whether or not you want to accept the entire sales volume as your target. It's about being rewarded for where you're actually having influence. And you don't influence my profitability because that's influenced by things like the weather. You influence my calls, my visits, my brand affinity, and that's it.
Right. So you've got to pick your KPIs
Exactly.
to things you can influence. And of course, the tendency is to say the broader the target, the more the incentives are aligned.
Yeah.
So if it is your profitability, then incentives totally aligned. But if you make a very narrow one, then the incentives aren't quite aligned. But
Yeah, it's
you can't
realism
make it too
versus
broad.
ambition.
Yeah,
I mean, that's the
yeah.
thing.
So if we rewarded the Change for Life campaign on the basis of childhood obesity in 5 years' time, it would be really quite a crude measure for paying an advertising agency. Your relationship with the procurement guys, do you have a fight with them over how much you're going to pay?
Fantastic. I mean, again, if you have them as a partnership rather than as a hurdle to jump over, you get a lot more done. I mean, this is a fantastically special relationship we have with agencies. We're producing something that's based on creativity and passion, and it's ultimately subjective. It's not a paperclip, it's not a carpet, it's not a server. The people who are selling to you have got commercial skin in the game and emotional and psychological skin in the game in a way a commodity salesman doesn't, and you have to represent that in the negotiation and the contract and the relationship management.
Yeah. Okay. And it's just this slight frustration. I think all the clients and procurement people who come into this room tend to be the ones that actually you would like to have, and then there are other ones who, I don't know, maybe even the majority of them, who are just not quite as good as the ones who attend IPA conferences. But that's just that important, isn't it? Debbie, just to comment on the morning, and then we're going to take a few comments from the floor on
So I think we should see it as a sort of collective war cry today, which is, and there aren't enough clients in the room. I went through the delegate list, and there need to be more clients. Perhaps we need to do the whole thing again with more clients. But I think that video that was shown, I thought was really interesting. And I thought the point about being in the product business, not just the service business, was really important. I mean, the fact is we're in both. But too often we just think about ourselves in the service business, and thinking about what it is that we sell and what it is that clients value about that product, and therefore what they're prepared to pay for it as a result, is how we should start to think about it. But change is scary. Change is, for everyone in this room, it's about embarking on new types of thinking. But we haven't done a bad job as an industry of adapting to probably the highest level of change and pace of change over the last decade. So we can do it, and I think we need to do it in this area as well. And like all war cries, it needs to be followed up with action.
Well, that's going to be the key, isn't it? Now, look, I want to take 2 or 3 comments from the floor. I do want you to go to lunch very shortly. So Just 2 or 3 comments, anything that you picked up, learned, hate or not about the morning and its presentations, and then I'll give the panel a kind of right of reply to any of your... God, there's not a single comment in the... You're hungry, basically. Oh no, we've got one. Yeah, there's one. There's a... Just tell us who you are.
Walter Denny from them, sort of medium-sized integrated agency. One of the things that I think is coming through is that procurement is quite powerful, and I think probably a lot of people in the room here will think that we'd all like to put our prices up, but we can't. We're held down by procurement. And then we hear the story about clients wanting to pay for very good people. I think what I feel is that perhaps the marketing guys need to stand up a bit more strongly and say, look, I want to pay for these guys, I want to pay this price for these guys, and put procurement back in their box slightly to a point where they say, okay, you can have them, rather than a situation where we're all driven down by the procurement guys and then we're all a commodity. So I think it's about the clients as much as anything. There's a lot here about the client saying, I want to work with these people, and we've got to make ourselves good enough that they want to work with us.
Mm. I mean, but we don't want agencies to blame the clients, really, do? Because it's like sailors blaming the weather, isn't it? I mean, it's the clients are the clients. You know, that's what you're working with. Do we have? I know in some of the in workshops this afternoon there are procurement people who are in the room. Would you like to just say something about? Just say something to the. You're not the pariah. No, I defended you, and others have defended you.
So I think we've had a balanced view of procurement over the entire morning. I think some good and some bad. Thank you, Amanda, specifically for what you said. I appreciated that. I think don't look at. I think, well, my personal view: don't view procurement and the client as different. They are the client. You know, you all spend a lot of money on client service. Some more than others. You need to understand who the decision makers are within the organisation of your client. I will bet you that in probably 80-90% of the cases, it's not procurement. Yeah, all the organisations I've worked within, procurement is not a mandated function. It is marketing that make the decision about the agency that they work with. So if your view is procurement are an obstacle in between you and the marketeers in your contract, that's just fundamentally not right. Okay. So your client service people are obviously not doing something correct to understand.
I think their feeling is, though, that actually the marketing people choose the agency and then procurement tells them the rate which they'll pay the agency. Is that? I
would love that to be true, but it's just not.
Right, okay. We've got another comment over there. Gentleman who spoke earlier. Yeah.
Hi, Dan from Creature again. I just before that happened, wanted to stand up for procurement a little bit. As a small agency, I really like procurement. When they're good, make the process more efficient. They free up funds to be used on making the work better, and it can work brilliantly. I met one procurement person who sat me down and said, I know how this works. It's your job to get as much shit past me as you can, and my job to catch you out. Some procurement people are dickheads, but I think we can all agree that some agency people are as well. So I genuinely, I think this kind of, it's weird, and it's kind of inevitable in this room that is all about provoking debate and all the rest of it, that we do set up opposition, and you know, as long as we all recognise that deep down no good comes of that, then I think we'll be all right.
And the alliances thing was really about trying to make the relationship adversarial. Look, I just want to finish the morning by getting the panel to talk about how you might jump from where you are to where the industry might like to be, and how you make that jump, and whether individual agencies can do it, whether it has to be a kind of collective jump. There's always a slight fear about jumping first. David, I'll just go down the panel. I kind of comment on how you get to there, and then we'll set off for lunch in the afternoon breakout.
Anyone who knows what I'm going to say. The pitch process and the amount of time and money that is spent by agencies selling their best ideas to other people's clients instead of selling them to their own has got to be reined in. I've been involved in that game for over 25 years. I've seen it deteriorate from showing us a bit of what you're capable of to let's have a complete year's campaign across 27 markets. And it is ridiculous. We cannot stand up as an industry and say that we're paying for quality and everything else if 25% or whatever of the time is given away in the pitch process. We've got to find more economical, more sensible ways of running the pitch process. And the lady on my right will tell you that when lawyers are looking to get new clients, they don't give away anything.
And it's not just your industry that feels this. I know my partner's a landscape architect, and they're asked to compete and draw up designs for competitions. It's actually quite expensive to draw up a design for a competition. Yeah, can I just hear your...
Yeah,
Yep.
I wouldn't take that lawyers don't give away anything to win new clients as gospel. That is not the case. We invest heavily in advance of winning a new client, both in terms of the time we put into it and the work we will do with those
But
organisations.
you don't give away the product.
We do in some cases.
Do you?
Yep, increasingly. There's a massive change in the legal services
It's a
market.
slippery slope.
If you want, I'm sure this won't affect any of you, but if you're interested, for whatever reason, in getting a divorce, just go online and see how much legal advice you can now get online, as opposed to having to pick up the phone to a lawyer. Massive change in the last couple of years. Just the one point I would make in terms of how we have changed. I think you made the comment about disaggregating your work in terms of talking to your clients to say, what can I do for you? What do you want? Help me think for me. 3 different types of service. We've done a huge amount of work with our clients trying to work out what they value and what their challenges are. And you can quite quickly get down to, this is the stuff they're not going to pay very much money for. It's very low margin work. We need to find a way of doing that more profitably. This is the stuff that's valuable, but lots of other people can do that. How do we make it special? And then there is the rocket science stuff, the stuff that only we can do, the weird kid in the corner stuff. That's the stuff they really value. But you need to have those conversations to get to that level of understanding granularity. And that's how we've got to where we've got to. We have talked to our clients and found out what's valuable to them.
And that's the absolute theme of the morning. Well, it's just what every company wants to do, is to move up to the more high margin. But we had it expressed in Debbie Orline, the Think For Me activities. We had it expressed from Amanda, seek terrain that is unexplored, was her phrase. It's all people just saying the same thing, which is do stuff that's more highly valued rather than less highly valued, obviously, if you can. A last comment from you two each, perhaps on how we get to the nirvana that everyone seems to be describing.
I'd say one word, which is belief. It's, if we believe in what we do and we believe in the value we add, it's not everyone has to do it the way we're doing it. And to your point, we're very nice and cozy today, but we compete with each other like crazy tomorrow, and long may that last. I think everyone can do it in their own way. You don't have to do it in a big, huge blown out way. You can sit down and look at what you do, and you can examine your own individual numbers, and they will tell a story, and then decide what you're going to do about it. But you can only do that if it starts with you believing in what you do, and therefore asking clients to pay you for the right things that they really value.
That's not very good advice for the people who shouldn't be believing in what they do, though, really, is it? I mean, that's there will be some people who...
Well, they're on a road to hell,
yeah,
because
if you're not very
there's
good,
only one way down.
Yeah. Okay, Dominic, come on, last word to you.
I think I'd echo the point around understanding. I think understanding leads to everything that we've talked about today, whether it's relationships or whether it's opening up opportunities to do exciting JVs. The more you understand, the better the conversation, the better the deal, the better the contract, the better the working relationship, the better the work, the better the results. It goes on and on and on. And a practical tip for me would be ignoring a meeting, go out for a drink or a coffee with your client or with your agency and get them to explain their job to you like they would to someone who's taken their role over for a long period, like a maternity or a sabbatical. So you get all the richness, like here's my objectives, here's what I'm trying to do for my clients. You get all the politics and the background. So here's what I'm worried about. Here's my organisational pressures. Here's the person who hates marketing, or here's the trafficking manager who hates me. You get all that richness, and the more you understand each other, the better things work. So that's a practical tip.
And that actually does bring us back to the title, the P of the day, which is performance. And it does say that perhaps thinking about performance and what you're doing and which bits are adding value and which bits are just me too kind of commodity is one way to think about how you take it before you start thinking about the payment. And maybe they were right to call it performance. I was a bit sceptical. Panel, I'm sorry we've squeezed you. You were at the end of the morning and we overran and you've got squeezed. But I apologise. I hope you found the day useful anyway. Can we thank the panel?